So welcome to Introduction to Open Science Framework Library Workshop. I'm Justin Fuhrer. I'm a science librarian at the University of Manitoba. So my objectives for this workshop are for you to be able to understand why you would want to use Open Science Framework in the first place. You'll also be able to create an Open Science Framework project and why you would want to do that. And then also to be able to publish a research plan, or they're also called research protocols, and then also a preprint of your work on the Open Science Framework, how to do that and why you would want to. So the workshop outline is pretty simple here. It's broken up into 3 parts. So first we'll do an intro to the OSF, or Open Science Framework. Then we're going to figure out how to create an OSF project, or why you would want to do that. And then finally, I'm just going to cover 2 platforms or 2 features of the OSF Registries and OSF Preprints, and what you would do in each of these systems and how it's helpful for you. Okay, so introduction to the Open Science Framework. So first off, open science, if you're not familiar, open science as a concept is, quote, the practice of science in such a way that others can collaborate and contribute, where research data, lab notes, and other research processes are freely available. And these are available under terms that enable reuse, redistribution, and reproduction of the research and its underlying data and methods. So this is from Foster Open Science. So open science is gaining traction in academia and throughout all kinds of disciplines that are doing research. The whole idea is make it more transparent. So everything from, like it says there, right? Data, lab notes, analysis, that sort of thing is all available for other people to not only look at and kind of see how you reached your conclusions, or gathered your results for whatever research studies or research you're doing, but then they could also reuse that data in different ways as well. So open science, it increases rigor, accountability, reproducibility, which we were just talking about, and collaboration as well. So it's the whole idea is broadening access to not only scientific literature, but also research and data more generally. It's also important to know that open science as a concept is inclusive, right? So it's not just, formal sciences or physical sciences or the natural sciences. It includes all disciplines. So the Open Science Framework, this is from their website, and they just show you kind of a general or a broad workflow on completing research, right? So you'd start at the lightest blue little arrow there at the top, search and discover. And then work your way through. You can kind of see more of the traditional ways that you would complete a research study or research more generally. So whole idea, right? Planning, then you're collecting some sort of data, right? Then you're analyzing it, and then you'd want to share that more widely, right? Through a conference presentation or scholarly journal article, that sort of thing. So we'll come back to this figure throughout the presentation, and I'll show you how Open Science Framework, the Open Science Framework, can help you with some of these steps. Okay, so why would you want to use the Open Science Framework? It's basically a platform that allows you to make your research more discoverable, but it also and transparent, but it also helps you manage your research. Tons of different parts of your research projects can be put onto the Open Science Framework for not only you to use, but you can add your team members so you can all access your material together, keep it all organized in one place. Also makes it very easy to share as well. Share your research or pieces of your research, or, let's say you did you finished some study, and then you did a conference presentation, or maybe you created a conference poster that you made up. You can put that all in the Open Science Framework. It's all in one place. It gives you a nice permanent link to share, right? It's also a good place to preserve your material. So depending on how you're storing research, well, research processes or things like, I don't know, lab notes or data, that sort of thing could just end up on someone's, computer somewhere, kind of forgotten about. Here, it gives you just a central place to keep all that stuff together, right? And then preserve it or archive it for the long term. So basically, I guess I'll read all these out, but these kind of align to what the previous slide was just talking about, right? So you can document your project in different ways. Then you can put it on your Open Science Framework project. Then it's there. You can, there's a lot of flexibility for security or permissions on who can access certain documents in your project, or maybe you want your project just to be totally private. That's great. Open Science Framework allows for that. You can register a research project, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. But that's so other people can search and discover your work and see, oh, someone's already working on this, or oh, someone's already working on this. I have something, similar. Maybe we'd want to, share data in some way, or work on a project together at some time in the future. Also gives you a really great way to store and make open your documents and data in your projects. We've already talked a lot about that, actually. There's also a wiki function. So a wiki, like Wikipedia, so you can describe in depth about your project, how whatever you want to write about your project pretty much, and gives you a really nice editor to do that and then post it on your project page. You can also get what's called a digital object identifier, or a DOI, for your project. That's permanent. It gives you a nice link to, put on all, your CV or a promotion document or whatever else you want to. Maybe you have a website and you put that there. People can click on it. That's permanent. It's always going to be the same link. And then they can see your project material, whatever you've chosen to make public. Open Science Framework is also really nice because it integrates to all of these different other platforms, right? So you can kind of see where there's sort of a similar graphic as before. It's just there's less of them, but it kind of guides you through some of the major pieces of working on a research project and how you can integrate some of these other programs or other platforms and use them throughout your Open Science Framework documentation. Things like GitHub, Zotero or Mendeley. Maybe you need more storage space, so you can link up everything from like Amazon Web Services, like cloud storage, or you can, there's integration into Google Drive for, Google Docs, or for storage in Google Drive, that sort of thing. Okay, so if you're interested in making an account, and you probably are since you're in this workshop, but you can just go to osf.io. I just got the link here. That takes you to the Open Science Framework main page, and then you would just click on the top right, sign up, and then you can either create a new account, or you can use your existing ORCID username or password, a username and password. So if you have an ORCID researcher profile, you've already signed up for that system, which is really great. Highly encourage you to do that. You can just use your same credentials in the Open Science Framework, or you can just make a account right on the Open Science Framework itself. Just remember your password, that sort of thing, and then sign up that way. We currently do not have the institutional login feature, so if you click on institution, you won't find the University of Manitoba. in there, but you can use one of these other two options to sign up. So once you've done that, you got an account ready. It's totally great. Now you're interested in making a project. So a project, before I get to this slide, but a project is just, actually, it's on the next one here. A project is for an experiment or a lab group, or you're working on a paper or presentation. A project can really be anything you can even think of, you know. Project can be, what does it say here? Project can be anything with files, collaborators, documentation, or data, right? Doesn't have to be a giant, huge research project. Maybe you're just working on something really small, or maybe one piece of a research project that you want to keep track of or document. Perfect place to do so, right? You and your collaborators, you all have open science accounts, open science framework accounts, and gives you a really nice place to collaborate on something. Going back to here, why would you use this in the first place? This is one feature that's really nice about Open Science Framework. Even if you're not interested in making a project, even if you don't have an account, you can use it to search and discover and brainstorm about a research project or research in process by someone else. So you can, you may ask yourself, how do I know if my idea is new? Where should I look? Or has anyone done research on this topic already? This is a perfect place to look because people, it's quite widespread, the use of Open Science Framework or OSF. You can search, you can look for other people's projects, you can look for research plans or protocols that have been published on the platform and see what other people are using. This is not the only place to do this sort of thing, certainly not, but it's a really great starting point. When you're creating a project, you have a couple different options. You can create a project from a template. Open Science Framework saves default templates that you can use, but you can also copy the structure of another project that you've made. So this can be yours, or it could be someone else that you know of. And you can copy that and create the same structure, right? There's all sorts of folders that you can use. There's all sorts of different components that you can add in, like that wiki thing I was talking about, or linking a research protocol or different documents. It can save the kind of structure of that project, and you can reuse it for future projects. You will note, I'll talk about that in a second, but the storage location, you can set the storage location for your project. So recommend storing your data or your project in the Montreal servers. So you have your project, you can add collaborators, and each of these collaborators can have different permissions. You can also add people just to review your project. Maybe let's say you were working on a manuscript with someone else and you wanted someone else to be able to see it. You can actually do that right in the Open Science Framework. You can upload a version of that. You can assign the permission to someone just to read or read and write on one specific piece of your project. Totally great. Works really well for that. Maybe you're the primary investigator on a project. You want to be the administrator for the project, or you're a supervisor or some kind of lab group. You set yourself to administrator, and you can set the other people to have, read and write permissions, but not to, add people to the group or that sort of thing. It's very customizable in that way. You can also license your project in different ways. Highly recommend you do this from the outset. There's all sorts of licenses you can add depending on what kind of data you have in your OSF project. I usually use something like a Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 license. If you're at all interested in any of these or you have questions about them, get in contact with me after, and I can help you work your way through these. There's different ones for like code, for example, if you're in computer science or, statistics or some kind of discipline like that, you can add different licenses to your project. So the Open Science Framework, they have funding for the next 50 years of their for storage capabilities. So that's already guaranteed. So they have a couple different options. So they give you 5 GB if your project is private. And if you make your project public, they'll give you 50 GB for free for each project. Or in total, I think. Actually, I don't know how it's divided up. I think if you create whoever the creator is of the project, that's who uses up that data. So either 5 GB for private ones or 50 GB. I believe this is in total, but it could be per project as well. So if you have any questions about that, either you can look it up or you can ask me after, and we can figure out which one it is. It's quite a bit in any case, 50 GB for public projects. Um, so like I was saying, there's an option for data storage within Canada. In Montreal, their data servers are located there. This can be important for things like research ethics. Just nice to keep it within Canada. You can select this option when you create a new project, like we had shown earlier on the screenshot there. So the storage on Open Science Framework is backed up every 24 hours. Or sorry, it's backed up via something called streaming replication 24 hours a day. And there's restore points that are made twice daily. Don't ask me what exactly that means. But basically, I think you could get a full restoration of your project twice a day. And I think it's like pieces of it are captured every 24 hours a day. Yeah. Anyways, their database storage, it has encrypted snapshots for additional 60 days, going back 60 days, and then backups are verified monthly, just so people aren't concerned about losing all their research data. Also, like I was saying a few minutes ago, you can add on storage. So if you purchase storage from Amazon Web Services or Dropbox or GitHub or Google Drive, you can add this into your Open Science Framework project. I'm not totally sure on OneDrive. Actually, I just thought of that right now because the university gives us quite a bit of space on there as well. I would assume you can, but I'm not totally sure if you can integrate that in yet. This is just an example use case. Just looking at the time. I don't know if we'll have time to get into this, but what I'll do actually is just post the slide link again. So if you have time either now or maybe later you want to look at this, you can go for it. It's just in the slide link there. Basically, this is kind of an extreme case of using the Open Science Framework. There was a big psychology study called the Psychology Reproducibility Study where they looked at all of these psychological studies or psychology studies, and they tried to see if they could replicate the experiments. And then all of their results are in here. All of their project data is in here. It's very cool, and it gives you a really good idea of how these 270 researchers can keep themselves organized and be collaborating on this like mega research project. Very interesting. There's also a journal article written by 2 librarians that talk about this as well. So the DOI link for that journal article is there as well. Okay, we actually are blazing through this. Maybe I should have gone back to, you guys can look at it. Okay, so the Open Science Registries and Preprints. So what the heck are those? Well, you may be asking yourself, how do I document and share my research idea with other people? How do I create and share my research plan or research protocol or research outline? And how do I pre-register my plan? So that's putting your research plan or research protocol out into the world to say, hey, I'm working on this thing. Justin's working on some very important research, and I want everyone to know about it. And it also, as part of that open science idea of open science, where I'm saying I'm doing this research in this way with these methods. I've done this background research. I figured out no one's working on this thing because I searched in X, Y, and Z. I'm going to collect my data in this way. I'm going to analyze my data in this way, right? Maybe you put a hypothesis in there as well ahead of time, right? And it just makes everything really transparent. And then open science can actually kind of timestamp your research plan to prove, hey, Justin had thought of these things. He came up with this hypothesis that is going to, he's going to test it and see if it's going to change the world or not. And he did this ahead of time. So he's not fudging his results in any way. It's very transparent, very open. And you can do that on the open science framework. So OSF registries, it's basically a place to register a research plan or protocol. Some people call it pre-registration. Some people call it registration. They mean slightly different things depending on who you talk to, but pre-registration really is submitting before you start anything. You've written up your research plan. You're saying, I'm going to write all those things I said before, my hypothesis, see if my hypothesis is going to change the world. And then I go out and do it. Whereas registration, you submit after you're done conducting your research, but you haven't actually reported the results or said why they're super important yet. So that's the difference between those two words. I wouldn't really stress about that. That's my job, I guess. But both of these types of templates are available at the Open Science Framework. If you click that link in the slides, should we click it? Sure. Let's see here. Let's make this bigger. Maybe I can't. Here. There we go. Just looking at my other screen now. Okay. There's different forms you can use. One's for doing systematic reviews. You can read the descriptions. There's tons of different things here. They're very detailed once you open them up. There's ones for qualitative research. There's all sorts of stuff. You really should look at this on your own because I can't select which one would be best for you. But this is really, if you're really, gung-ho about, not necessarily gung-ho about your research because we're all gung-ho about our research, but if you want to make sure that people know that this is your research plan, and then it also holds you accountable too, right? You and your team accountable. And also it gets everyone on the same page in your team. If you're registering your research plan, research protocol ahead of time, gives you a template to follow throughout your project. Do we register after ethics approval? The funny thing about that, well, no, it doesn't matter. You can choose what makes most sense for you. The funny thing about these research protocols is a lot of the information that's in an ethics approval submission or proposal is included on the plan. Really, I should have opened one up to show people. I guess we still can, but I think we're running. Well, okay, I'll just open one up quick. Here we go. Open and download or the Google Doc. Let's see. Okay. Okay. So if we scroll down, okay. Right, title, description, contributors, very easy. Okay, hypotheses, right? Gives you an example of that. Design plan, what kind of, research design are you using? Blinding, if that involves humans at all, you can do that, right? This is all, should be all stuff familiar if you're doing research ethics. Your study design, right? You're going to be writing about that in your ethics approval proposal, right? Let's see, existing data. I guess we're going through this pretty quick, but how you're collecting your data, right? And it gives you examples of that. This is all like, right, sample size rationale, stopping rule. I'm not really familiar with that. When you would stop collecting data, it looks like what kind of variables you're using, right? And you're just writing all this down, and then you can upload it right into the Open Science Framework. So you can see a lot of that would be repeated in a research ethics approval. It's up to you to decide when you would want to do that, or if you would want to do that at all anyways, right? Because maybe just you're doing your REB and that's good enough. Where do I organize and store data? How can I share my data? I'll show you how to upload a research protocol or register your research plan on here in a second. But data management, we have a lot of support for data management in the libraries. You can click on either of these links. One is specifically using the Open Science Framework to organize your research data. But the first link is the University of Manitoba Libraries page on data management. It can get very complex. You can go down quite a deep rabbit hole into this stuff. If you have any questions about any of that, for sure, contact me, contact our research data management librarian. We'll be happy to help. It's basically Open Science Framework is a really nice way to keep all your project files together, all that data, maybe then a master file of your data or however many files, probably many files, and then manipulating that data in different ways, keeps it all together, keeps it all organized. Yeah. Um, okay. I really should have gone back. Whoops. Okay. Before we do that, here. Whoops. Okay, that. Rats. Sorry. 1 second. Um, sorry. Here we go. Okay. Let's go back. Okay. Just gotta get the. Here we go. Um, ah, sorry, guys. Okay. Registries. We're clicking on the template link, which now, of course, is over here. Let's see if I can get this. There we go. Okay, so if we're on OSF, the homepage, we got our projects here, right? That's totally great. We're going to go up to this little drop down. If it goes down, okay. You can see these different modules here. Don't worry about the bottom two. Those are for conferences, that sort of thing. So it also has capability to share and collect conference presentations and posters if you're ever organizing a conference. So just so you guys know that. But we're going to go to OSF Registries. Here you can search for, this is where you can search other people's registries that they've posted, right? You can just see a couple example ones down here. Local predictors of variation in plant phenology. You might be interested in that. You can click on that, see what they did. But here also you can add your research protocol, research plan, right? It's going to tell you, ask you which one you want to make. These are going to be those same ones from that template before. And do you have content for registration in an existing OSF project? So maybe you do, and you would say yes. Or maybe you say no. And then you could create a draft of one of these things and then post it. Okay. You may also be looking for a place to post a preprint. This is becoming more and more common. Depends on which discipline you're in and how common that is actually. But you may be writing your manuscript, and then at some point you want to post a preprint, whether that's you've submitted to a journal and you're just waiting for it to be published, or you are trying to comply with tri-agency's open access policy. You need a place to post a version of your article if you're allowed to do that. So how do I share findings widely? Over and above publishing my manuscript in a journal or presenting somewhere at a conference. You also, how can you get a DOI for my research project? You can do both of these on Open Science Framework. It's really nice. So a preprint, just so we're all on the same page, it's a complete manuscript shared with a public audience, often, I should say often without peer review. So before it's gone through the peer review process. Often preprints are submitted for peer review and publication in a traditional scholarly journal. So there may be various reasons why you'd want to post a preprint, depending on where you've submitted and where your article eventually gets accepted. You may or may not be allowed to post a preprint. Again, this is becoming more and more common. You can sometimes journals will allow you to post a preprint, so before peer review, but they won't allow you to post the post print, which would be after the peer review, but it still looks like, you know, it does in your Word document or LaTeX document. It doesn't have the journal's layout or, you know, like columns, and it looks like it's in a journal. Sometimes they'll allow you to post that, but sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll allow you to post the like the journal version with all of the layout and everything. It just depends. This is something that would be stipulated in either a copyright agreement that you've signed when you've been accepted for publication somewhere, or an author's rights document, or it'll be posted on the journal's webpage itself, or it'll be posted on the journal's webpage that you can go see. If you have any questions about any of this, though, get in touch with the libraries. We're very good on determining what you're allowed to post, that sort of thing. There's tons of different places to post these too. OSF is one option. You can also use the University of Manitoba's institutional repository MSpace. You can post postprint or preprint or a journal article, whatever you're allowed to post in MSpace. If you're associated with the university in some way, that's another great option. So get in touch if you have any questions about that. But on OSF, you can upload to a preprint server. So they have a module called OSF Preprints. It just gets your research out there. People can read it. People can access it. OSF actually is behind some of these other preprint repositories, and you can search some of these things in OSF as well. But things like arXiv you may be familiar with, or bioRxiv and PeerJ, or Soc Archive. I don't know how you would say that. Soc Archive, Social Archive, that too. Right. So these are other preprint servers. Totally great to post to those too if you're able to do that with your manuscript or finished publication. But OSF preprints is really great as well. I'm just going to click on that one to show you. So here we are. These all link, that research protocol, your preprints, they all can link to your project. So then I'll just give an example here. But okay, so here in the preprints platform, you can search for preprints. So you can search for anything that you're interested in. You can also submit a preprint. It gives you examples. There's also lots of support articles here if you have any questions about how to do any of this stuff. You can also browse by going to any of these disciplines, see what other people have posted. And then, yeah, there's all these other preprint service providers that you to post to if you're at all interested. I'll just show you an example here of what this would look like. Okay, I'm going to go to OSF Home. I'll see my dashboard. I'll see all my projects. I'll click on a project I was working on a year ago. Okay, so here, I'll just make this a little bigger here. Okay. So you can see we've assigned a license here, Creative Commons 4.0 license, so people can feel free to reuse this work as long as they're citing us. And the project homepage has a DOI assigned to it. I can send this link to people and they can click on it and look at it. We described our project here. But I wanted to show you, and then it also, in OSF, it shows the history of the edits made to this as well. So you can see, oh, what's been added, what's been modified, what's been deleted, that sort of thing. But you can organize your files, project files with this. This is actually the main reason why this is really nice. I'll just click on this folder here. And actually, it's not even in there. But I'll, all of our data was in here. Our master file list, all of our analysis was in here as well. We put in some conference presentations as well in here so people can look at those if they're at all interested. This all gets sent to Google Scholar as well, indexed in there, gets added to your profile if you have a profile in there. Yes, and I really wanted to find the preprint, but I guess it wasn't added here for some reason. But you can link these different components together. So it's all added to one central space. It's really nice. You just say, hey, thesis supervisor, or hey, lab partner or collaborator, I'm going to send you this DOI to this project I worked on, a year ago. And then you can click on there. You can see all the files there. Everything's great. Everything's in one place. It's managed. It's shared. It's really nice. Just going to pause for a second to see if I have any questions. We are pretty much done. So I'll just go back to that poll in a second here if anyone had any questions. So the three components we covered today: OSF Projects, or it's called OSF Home. That's to organize and share your project data. OSF Registries is to share your research outline or protocol, either with collaborators or just to the general public. And then OSF Preprints, that's to share your research findings, your draft manuscripts or manuscripts that have been written but before peer review, or maybe post peer review, depends. OSF's really nice. These are all things I really like about it. It's free and easy to use. You get quite a bit of space depending on what kind of data you're collecting. It's really efficient and it's really effective for completing research projects. And it's very easy to share data and also organize your project files in one central place. You get that nice DOI to share with people. It's really great. I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you so much for attending today.